Hey friends, Kevin here, and today I want to tell you about a place where your money is no good, at least where your cash is no good, and that happens to be in at least one of our national parks. Now, what makes our national park system so great is that we're up to about 62 of these, and they are all different. The downside is they're all run completely different. And out of the 50 some of these that actually have campgrounds, you'll find out that the campgrounds are all run completely different with completely different rules, just to make things a little more confusing when you're traveling. So we're going to get into that and about places where you can no longer use cash, and I'm going to show you what you have to do instead. So let's get to it. Now, I know when I mention that there's a place that doesn't take cash, there's going to be some people out there screaming, "That's illegal! They have to take cash! It's the law! You can't not accept cash!" Why, if you look at one of these here bills, it says right there, this note is good for all debt, public and private. So they have to take cash. Well, not if there's no one there to accept it. And that's one of the situations you now are possibly going to run in our national park system, and probably even in some different state parks, if this thing takes off. Now, I ran into this in Hot Springs National Park in Arkansas. And Hot Springs is a little bit of an odd setup anyway. I'm going to do a completely different video on that later, because Hot Springs National Park is basically part of a town. It's basically one side of a street, and then behind that street there are some walking trails and some different things on land they own. And the official national park campground for Hot Springs National Park is a couple of miles away if you're driving. It's a little bit closer if you can walk through the woods and get over there. So it's a bit of an odd setup. It's also a bit of an odd setup in that this campground, while it has hookups and while it has bathroom facilities, it also has no showers. It's never been updated. In addition, it only has about 30 official camping spots with those hookups, and they cost $30 per night. There's a side area where you can go tent camp, or if there are no spots available, you now have no option but to go over to the tent camp area. You won't have hookups, and it will still cost you $30 a night. On the upside, it is a nice, quiet area. I don't know what they're even doing with the national reservation system, because I didn't even see that in there where that had been done. So I assume you can do it that way, but I'm talking for this video about people who just show up and want to pay some money in order to camp there. So what happens is you go in, you find a spot that's vacant, and they have this little building set up, and this building is not manned. You then look at the little number on your pole, and you go over and you go in this building where there is this cold, heartless machine. And this cold, heartless machine handles everything, about the size of an ATM machine, except it does not take cash. It also does not take personal checks, which is a thing that a lot of people are used to in traveling, especially in national parks and state parks, because they just scribble out a check and drop it in the pay envelope and throw it in a box, and that's the end of it when they're traveling, because they don't want to run around. If they're going to be gone for any length of time, they don't want to be running around with a bunch of cash. And I am the same way. I don't want to be carrying a bunch of cash around when I'm out exploring and in strange places. So I tend to just not do that. But, and this video will kind of show how this machine works, but the basis of it is that you can't pay with cash. It's credit card or debit card only. Now, while the machine did function, you put in your number of your campsite number or hit the overflow button. And it has a place to ask if you are retired and do a retirement discount that amounts to a few dollars. It doesn't have a place specifically to ask for disability. Now, technically, in order for the retirement discount to kick in, it doesn't involve that you just decided one day that you were retired. It's that you meet the standards and you actually have the retirement pass. The same thing with disability. They don't take your word for it. You have to have proof of this. And you have to have that particular national parks type pass. So I watched someone that came in after me do this and run into that exact problem because they were disabled and they simply finally just chose the option for retirement. Now, one of the interesting things here is on the machine itself, in paper, on the screen, and on the little ticket it prints out, it gets very threatening about what's going to happen to you if you lie. And someone comes around, when they come around to check this every day, and the ranger comes through and checks the camp spots and what have you, if you have lied and you aren't due this retirement discount, then you are on the hook for a potential very large fine. And posting this 3 times, it is not even friendly in the way that it describes this. So I've been out so much in so many different places over the last 4 years. I thought I had run into just about every situation, at least simple things that involve paying for a campsite. But this was a new one on me, one I hadn't run into before. If you have run into this system in another national park or state park, I'd love for you to put that down in the comments and let everybody else know where you were that you ran into this situation. I also would like to hear your opinions of it. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it the future? Which I think it may very well be. I have no doubt that things may start to move in that direction, especially if they have the results they want off the first one or several of these that they use in different places around the country. My only real gripe with it is that it is just worded on the screen. It's not user friendly. And the fact that whoever was in charge of this and whoever they got to program this machine didn't bother to give them all the options, including one for all of the people that are running around that are disabled. You would think they would at least have done this a little more professionally to make those options clear and explain what people had to have in order to qualify for those options, but they simply didn't do that. But this is one of those odd situations. Again, I just try to bring you things I run into on the road, whether they're good, whether they're bad. So, when you hit into different situations, you won't be as completely shocked as I have been sometimes with some of the stuff that I run across. But let me know your feelings on this one way or another, good, bad, or indifferent. And we'll get back to more van build and how to do things in a van and van life travel stuff here in future videos. And we'll talk soon.